I'm standing in the grounds of the yacht club at Rio de Janeiro. This is like the epicenter of sailing in Rio, and the Brazilians have packed up. There's a bit of a party going on behind me, and it's the end of a really great day's racing here on Guanabara Bay. And the conditions, they caught everyone surprised. Clearly they caught SailGP by surprise, because the 27.5 meter rigs, those really big rigs, were what were specified to go on the F50s this morning. And to be honest, it was overpowered all day. It was still massively fluky and gusty and variable, but somehow through all of that, Australia scored a perfect 4 today. Now, that perfect run didn't come without its risks, because we come to the start of the first fleet race of the afternoon session, and most of the fleet have booked their spot early. They got their deck chairs out, but Australia comes charging through from the back on the windward end of the line, hoping that a gap is going to materialise. It does, which allows the Bonds Flying Roos to fly through fully on the hydrofoils, leaving most of their rivals still low riding in H2, and they sail out to an unassailable lead. It was a high-risk strategy, and on this occasion, it worked out. Whose call is it to go for those ballsy starts like the start of race 1, charging in from the back, worked beautifully? Whose call is that?
Yeah, I mean, that's something that we knew was really high risk, but today was a venue that we thought would work really well if the gap appeared. And so the whole way back into the start, we're talking about where we think the gap is going to appear. And we're always ready to bail out if we have to. We know that's the risk that comes with trying to do that type of start. But yeah, that gap appeared for us. And yeah, when it did, we went for it.
So here's some more context for just how impressive that Australian performance was. Never mind all the variabilities of the wind across the bay. It was also about trying to keep the wheels on the wagon, because these 27.5 meter rigs are not specified for the kind of conditions we ended up having. And most of the sailors were really not enjoying getting the boat around the course. It felt massively overpowered. The wing trimmers were mostly pushing slack rope away from themselves, trying to get rid of the power, and not really able to do it. Nathan Outteridge, the Swedish skipper, frustrated that they were using those rigs at all. Considering you are still a fairly new team on board and you've got a lot of experience but still coordinating, what's it like, the 27.5 rig with those wind conditions that you had today?
To be honest, it's pretty horrible. They're pretty horrible most of the time, the 27 metre wings. They're so big and heavy and make the boats feel so laboured.
Are you saying that you don't like them under any situation?
Not really. Even yesterday, we were sort of chatting about it a bit, like would we be better to keep the boats lighter and use the 24 metre wing? At least then, if it does get a bit breezy, you can put your full 6 crew on. The hardest thing today was you couldn't move the wing sheet, because you had one lonesome grinder up there working as hard as they could. And the boat was really out of balance. And, you know, Draper was saying he'd run to the leeward side of the boat, and the leeward side stays flapping around in the breeze. So, yeah, I think a consensus across the group was that we prefer not to use these wings unless you're not in foiling conditions. But we're here today, we did it. All the wings are still in the sky, and hopefully we won't have to do that again.
So that gives you a measure of Nathan's frustration with using this rig today. So he's going to be even more frustrated when he hears how Tom Slingsby makes it sound so easy. We can't see how difficult it is from the outside, but you're saying flow state, but meanwhile the wing trimmer's pushing the rope, it's loose, there's hardly any pull in the wing. And so how do you balance that between all of you? It must be really difficult to coordinate.
Yeah, very difficult with the 27 metre wing up range. I mean, we continuously were just overpowered all day, and you see Goobs trying to depower the wing and easing. It's just a slack wing sheet. But we spoke a lot about it, said, look, today if the wing comes in, we're going to be overpowered. Sam on the jib sheet, he's going to have to help Goobs out. So Sam was, every time the wing sheet went slack, Goobs said, we're slack, and Sam eased the jib, and then he would get tension back in the wing. So the way those guys were working together, and also with Jason flying the boat, like he knew how to sort of get power back in the boat. He's raking back extra to sort of roll the boat into windward to get the load back in the sheet. They just did such an amazing job of that today. It was really impressive to see how well everyone gelled.
So things are going really smoothly on the Australian boat, but then there are these outside influences, i.e. your rivals on other boats, and they may be on other legs of the racecourse, such as we saw in the mad photo finish between Australia and Germany in race 7.
That was a really tricky call for us. I wasn't sure if there was going to be room between GBR and the bottom end of the finish line, and our coach Smith came through and said there wouldn't be. So we had to match them upwind a bit. And yeah, honestly, dealing with boats on other legs of the course is one of the hardest parts of my job. And yeah, it happened quite a bit today because the fleet was so spread out. It was hard to get off the start line. So from lap 1, everyone was everywhere, and it was really tricky. But yeah, I think we managed it just okay.
The start of race 7, the final fleet race, there was a lot on for some of the teams. Well, this time the French tried to go for that top of the line kind of manoeuvre that we'd seen Australia execute so well in the earlier race, but the French went for a gap that wasn't there. They barged in and the umpires judged that it was so dangerous that they were disqualified from the race and no longer allowed to take part. Meanwhile, it was an absolute must-do well for Spain if they were going to get past USA and get that third and last spot in the final. And it wasn't starting well for the Spanish. They were way at the back out of the start line and going right round Mark 1, and it looked like Diego Botin's hopes of another final were sunk. But then an amazing pull through the fleet. He finds those gusts that nobody else finds on the racecourse, and they pull themselves back past the Americans and back into contention by the end of that race. So then we go to the grand final, and we've got 3 likely contenders, Australia, Sweden and Spain in the final. Spain have been in a lot of finals this season already, and they need to see one out, but they don't get a great start. They start at the windward end, but a little bit too far back. Sweden getting a pretty nice start, but Australia fastest out of the blocks and leading at Mark 1. And it looks like Nathan Outteridge is going to tuck this away and get his 4th win for the day, and the most important one, of course. But then Sweden get back ahead on the upwind leg, and it looks like Nathan Outteridge has seized the upper hand, but then they just drop off the foils for a moment. Nathan Outteridge just frustrated as Tom Slingsby manages to cruise his way past, foiling and back into the lead again. And then it goes worse for the Swedes because they get caught out by a penalty trying to get past the Spanish, and that just finally leaves the way clear for Tom Slingsby to win that 4th most important race win of the day after those 3 fleet wins, to then top it off with winning overall in Rio. Just a perfect finale for Australia. Tom, to win 4 races in a day, well, to do that anywhere is impressive. Could you ever imagine that any team, let alone yourselves, could do that here on that racecourse?
Yeah, I don't think it's been done before. We've won 3 races in a day back in season 1 when there was only 6 boats or something like that. But to do it against a sort of 12 in a 12-boat fleet on such a challenging day, if you asked me today, would you take? Were you going to get 4 first? I'd say not a chance. But I think we would have taken 4 5th places today. But yeah, the team just gelled. It feels amazing. Like, this is the reason you compete, is to when everything comes together and everyone's gelling, you get in what we call flow state, where you're not even having to talk to the guy next to you and they know exactly what you're thinking, and it just felt like we're in that today.
Nathan, must be mixed feelings making a final and then not seeing it through.
Yeah, I guess so. We were pretty stoked to just have a really good Sunday. We've had a few troubles on Sundays over the last few events, and I thought we started pretty well today. As you probably saw, it was quite dynamic conditions out there, and yeah, to make the final was awesome, and then to be in such a strong position in the final was really good too. I don't really know what happened at the top mark there. I thought we tacked right in front of the Aussies, and somehow they foiled past us and we couldn't even fly a hull. So that's Sugarloaf for you. Sometimes you get a good puff and sometimes you get a bit caught. And then, yeah, I kind of unfolded a bit there. We thought we'd try and split up in the course and try and get back in the race by taking the right mark. And then we got a penalty from the umpires from Spain on the other mark. And that's life. But, the more finals we get to do, the better we'll get at them. So it's a good step in the right direction.
Now, the elephant in the room, there's a team that we haven't even mentioned. It's last year's champions, this year's current leaders going into the event in Rio. It's Great Britain. I mean, not just a slight blip, a total fall from grace this weekend, finishing last, 12th in the fleet. No one could have seen that coming. Dylan Fletcher had said that he wanted to right the wrongs of 10 years ago when he just missed out on a medal Rio 2016 in the 49er skiff. Hannah Mills, his strategist, of course, winning the first of her 2 gold medals in Rio 10 years ago. They came back here full of high hopes and confidence, top 2 in the first 3 events of the season in Australasia, but they just couldn't get out of their own way this weekend. They couldn't get off the start, and their usual powers of being able to overtake and come through the fleet after a bad start, well, that evaporated as well. And so why did it happen? Well, even Dylan Fletcher was scratching his head about that one.
Yeah, I certainly think that the positive of the season start, the season's gone well so far, but this weekend's performance really was bad, and I think that we were surprised, maybe not surprised, we expected to be slightly better today. But what I am really proud of is that the team came out fighting today. There was no anger on board. We kept the team together. We had each other's backs. We were doing everything we can to get a good result. We just couldn't get it together. So I think disappointed, but I guess proud of how the team still had each other's back at the end of a difficult weekend.
So what exactly did happen to the Brits? If we can't get that answer from the Brits themselves, what did some of the other skippers have to say? Well, we polled some of the other drivers from some of the other fleets, and I think Nikolaj Sejersted from Denmark said it best.
I think the level is just so high now that anyone can finish last. I wouldn't say anyone can win, but anyone can definitely finish last if you're not on it. And yeah, I mean, GBR's conditions are normally like good foiling conditions where they can really have some good overtakes and some good motor handling, and this venue didn't really sort of deliver that for them. So I think there was always going to be a tricky venue for a boat like GBR.
And we've got to finish with the home team, with Martine Grael and the Brazilians. First time to South America for SailGP, and Martine, in her own way, the absolute star of the weekend.
I think our public really enjoys cheering for Brazil, and having a Brazilian team in SailGP here is definitely made something. And also Brazilians enjoy quite a bit racing and car racing, Formula One, and so we have a big public out of sailing that is watching SailGP as well and getting to understand SailGP. So it's really important that SailGP media keeps showing the public what it is SailGP. And you can follow through, the TV and live here, so you can get a better understanding of what's going on. Everybody liked the show. There's a lot of people still here. They even finished 2 hours ago, and there's still a lot of people here. So it's a big party here in SailGP Rio.
Martine, thanks so much, and well done this weekend.
Thank you.